Hi, this is Bill Macchio, your host for a new podcast, special edition of Voice for Real Estate. Who are they and where did they move from? Today, we meet Low Country newcomers Brian Diffily and Brian Hartmann of Granite Wealth Management.
Who are they and where do they move from? A special edition of Voice for Real Estate, the Southern hospitality and coastal lifestyle found along the Carolina shoreline attracts thousands of new residents on a weekly basis. From the West Coast to the Northeast and all places in between, they are making their way to explore coastal Carolina. The Who Are They and Where Do They Move From podcast. Now, let's meet one of these new South Carolina residents.
Here we are for a special edition of Voice for Real Estate, just a conversation about living along the Carolina coast. And this is a special edition because it's who are they and where did they move from? We've all heard about all the different people relocating to the Carolina coast. And so it's my pleasure that I'm able to introduce Brian and Brian. And they're from Granite Wealth Management.
Yep. The true name of the company is Granite Bridge Wealth Management. And so work with our clients in a number of different facets, most in an advisory role, but we definitely do some consulting for small business owners and even families.
And in all transparency, I met these guys because they're advertising in Mount Pleasant magazine. Thank you for the business, y'all. And as a result of our conversation, I've really gotten to know why they moved here and the lifestyle that they experienced here. And I just wanted to share that with the conversation. When you were thinking about moving, tell us about the conversation you had with your family and wife.
When we were considering moving, this was not the only place on our radar. There were a couple of different places in different areas of the country. And so we were really looking for was an upgrade in our lifestyle. And for our family, that meant being able to access outside activities as many days of the year as possible. So that's where we started. And then obviously we focused on really good school districts and being close to the sand. That was important for us. And so it brought us to about three areas of the country, but there was a strong magnet for us that really brought us to the Charleston and Mount Pleasant area over and over. And we finally got to visit. The first time we ever visited here was September of 2020. And immediately, this was where all of our focus was after being able to see just like how amazing the culture and the area was.
Brian, we've had some great conversations about the lifestyle here. Tell the listeners the kind of conversation you have with your wife and your kids.
I think especially coming out of 2020, we got the license to really open up our mindset to things that were normal to us, which was, cold, freezing, snowy weather up north and the availability to extend the best parts of the year weather-wise, which has meant, more activities and the kids and my wife obviously were attracted to that idea. My kids being very young, I love the idea of introducing them to just better days, not just, frivolous fun, but getting involved in the amazing architecture, culture down here that was limited up north to a degree, right? Weather-wise, if nothing else. So those conversations became real exciting real quick for my family.
How old are your children?
4.5 and 1.5.
And what about you,
little
Brian Hartmann? How old are your kids?
So my son is 5.5 today as we're filming it, actually.
Wow.
And my daughter just turned 2 last week. So that played into a big part of our move too. It was kind of the perfect time before they got too integrated in schools and sports and things in our area. So it was just, it was great for us.
What did they think about the move?
They thought it was really exciting. I mean, we had deep roots in New Jersey. Multiple generations of our family were there, but they were really excited about what the new life looked like. And knowing that my son was excited because he said he was going to be able to wear shorts a lot.
Y'all have pets? I'm a pet lover. So do y'all have any pets?
I love pets, but we don't have them. And that was a tough choice for us because we knew that we were going to be moving around a lot, not only the actual move, but moving around when we got down here. So we're focusing on family right now, but we may add a family member, furry buddy down the road. Still in discussions at the dinner table.
What about you, Brian H.?
Yeah, so same story. I mean, we've had a lot of visitors who decide to bring their pets here, but we don't have any with us, and mostly because we want to just be able to just freely enjoy the new lifestyle year without having to come back just yet and feed the dog or walk the dog.
Did it come as a result of COVID, or was it after COVID? The first initial shock of COVID?
At least a byproduct of it. I mean, I wouldn't be completely truthful if I didn't think that. Now, pre-COVID, Charleston was on my radar for sure. I was down here 5-6 times with family and friends and just fell in love with this area. So I knew someday I'd want to have some sort of foothold down here. But what COVID did was it really, pulled back, peeled back that sort of traditional mindset that we had. And I realized that I was just in the area that I was in because I was just always there. I was brought up there and I never left there. And that wasn't a good enough reason to stay. And when I did the comparative analysis, either on paper or even like the heart analysis to move, all the boxes were being checked to move down there. Then all I just needed was the gumption and throwing the fear away of moving. So once I did that and put the wheels in motion, like I was saying to Brian too, it got out of control real fast. Houses were going on the market. We're buying houses. We're putting things in boxes, hiring moving companies. So it happened real fast. And I was really grateful that it did because it didn't allow me to overthink things. And the move has just been everything we had dreamed it to be, honestly, without being too melodramatic about it. But that's the truth.
Everyone's talking about real estate. The conversation continues with Voice for Real Estate podcast. Listen and learn from the experts who call the Carolinas home. Podcast advertising gives your business a voice of authority. Be heard. Advertise on this podcast. Visit voiceforrealestate.com.
When you all had this discussion, what are the two most important things you guys checked off that said, yes, we can do this?
That's an awesome question. So I'll answer the two check boxes. Or one, we had to make sure it worked for our business. And right, so our business, like so many through the pandemic, became remote very quickly. Brian and I, we were pretty dedicated to seeing our clients on a regular basis. And so we had to adapt to the virtual world pretty quickly. We weren't willing to give up our personal relationships with our clients just because maybe the pandemic restricted us from seeing them in person. So we got on Zoom and we could continue our personal relationships. We were able to do that basically from anywhere, but down here, it just made it a little bit more fun. And then the second box was upgrade in our families. Brian and I work extremely hard, but here it seems like it made it easier that the moment we were done our hard work, we could transition right into a more relaxing atmosphere pretty quickly. Extremely rewarding so far.
One of the things that inspired me to do the who are they and where did they move from was when you said over lunch, the lifestyle has reduced the stress. And that's really cool. And I've been telling my colleagues at the magazine, we take it for granted. And one of the joys I'm getting out of talking to y'all is you're bringing validity to the fact that we have an awesome lifestyle. You guys mentioned yesterday that there's probably people that will hear this or watch this and they're concerned about their business. Would you dwell on that a little bit more? Because that had to be a concern of yours.
My experience there was I was very grateful that mine and Brian's business didn't have to hold widgets in a warehouse somewhere where we needed to have access to Jersey City and ports and things like that. So for our business being a intangible one, my joke is, thank God I wasn't a perfume salesman because I would have been probably more nervous about this move where someone needs to I got to put it right under their nose. So with us, also the shift of our clients' mindsets and our prospects' mindsets to hopping on a Zoom call, being in their shorts at their, coffee table and having a real meaningful conversation with us, it allowed business to not only continue, but to grow. So the past 2 years were actually great years for me and Brian because of that. So other people that, may be concerned about that, I think that's a healthy place to be in your mind, to be concerned, but also know that it is completely workable, especially if you take some time to think about how it's going to affect people. But thank God, again, a positive byproduct out of all this mess in the past 2 years has been a headspace change. And I think if you're able to do that, that really perpetuates you towards successes that you may not have thought that you can get, or in the way that you can get those, so different conduits of success have been created out of this. And we are personally grateful for it.
Did you guys do some practice Zoom calls with the clients before you actually moved down here?
We were doing probably 50% of our business was virtual going into the pandemic before we had heard of COVID, because our clients are not only just local to where we were, but really all around the country and around the globe. So 50% of our clients have never met us skin to skin. And so
that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it was fortunate. So, and then we create a very personal way to do it. You know, Zoom calls can be chaotic at times, but we've kind of brought in professionals that have helped us guide through the process and create a really smooth process for our clients. And most of them are thankful for it. They don't have to worry about traveling to an office and meeting staff and getting lost or leaving early and all those kinds of things. Like Bri said, convenient, just like we're doing today.
I think what Brian said, y'all, at this beginning of this question is it's a mindset. So somebody is thinking about taking this move. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be concerned. But what's most important is to have an open mind and know it can happen if you want it to happen.
Right.
You know, right?
Totally. Yes, sir.
When you talked about coming to the Carolina coast, did you look at any other areas?
So look at other areas. And again, I referred to it almost as a magnet. So Brian and I have a life in New Jersey still that we wanted to kind of honor and be able to access throughout the year, whether it's family or vacations, whatever it is. I mean, Mount Pleasant and a 15-minute commute to an international airport to shoot all around the country when we need to. I mean, the convenience of that was second to none. And then being able to be home or meet family at dinner after coming home from a flight, maybe the same day, we couldn't find a place that could beat that.
Somebody was consulting with you, should I do this? What would the number one advice be?
Well, I'll tell you the advice that I gave to Brian H., because when he was getting excited about this area, I said, Bri, you got to get down and you got to see it. You got to feel it. So he went down there and he got into the belly of the culture down here, and he came back with rave reviews. So my advice would be to come and check it out, because that's what I did. And I got the same feeling when I came down here to actually find my permanent address that I did when I was down here vacationing, was that I felt like I was on vacation. I just happen to have an address now. So when I walk around my community, I'm just amazed by how I just feel. And I pinch myself a little bit. And like Bri alluded to, the access hasn't gone away. We still have all the infrastructure that we had in need. It's just a little bit different.
Brian D just said you came down here and visit and you got in the belly of the culture. Explain that, because I want to know from a newcomer's eyes what that meant to you.
The culture here is the icing and the candles on the cake, because you come down and you hear about.
Wow, not just the icing, but the candles too. That's pretty cool.
The candles on the cake is what makes it shine. But I mean, we were embraced. I mean, the culture was a little bit different than I actually thought it was going to be.
In what way, Brian?
So it's welcoming. It's welcoming, and folks are just willing to have conversations. So when we take neighborhood walks, it's tough to get down the street, right? Because we're having 5-minute conversation with one of our neighbors here, 5 minutes down here. The one thing that really surprised me was when folks ask you, how are you doing? It's not them saying hello. They actually are interested in how you're doing. And I love to participate in those conversations. When we moved down, we were very strategic because we wanted to honor the local culture. We had plenty of culture where we came from, but we wanted to embrace the local culture. And that's why we named our company even what we did. Granite came a lot because there's a blue granite that is natural for being in the Carolinas. And we have blue granite in all of our logos. So even though we're expats and coming in to this wonderful culture, we wanted everyone here to know that we're honoring it. And we're really proud to be part of it.
That's cool. I remember our first conversation about the magazine. You've realized the magazine is such a part of the community, and that's why that really meant a lot to me, Brian. That our first conversation actually was very engaging, was it not?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were in Mount Pleasant magazine and working together with you before we actually had addresses down here, because we just knew that we wanted to be part of this community as quickly as we possibly could.
Let's go to the home buying process. Is that okay with you guys?
Sure.
Brian D, I know that you used Ariel Truch to purchase your home, and tell me about the what you thought about the pricing, and tell me about taxes, and just tell me about the experience you had with Ariel, because I know she's a good agent. She's with Carolina One, and she's been around a long time. She's an awesome person and a good agent. Tell me about that transaction.
Yeah, Ariel is an awesome person. She was referred to me by my accountant. And I spoke with her, and we just had a synergy right away. She's so patient, I appreciate that. She was amazing and showed me a bunch of homes, but I always knew that I wanted to be in a very specific segment in Mount Pleasant. I found this community down here that I just really fell in love with. I couldn't get enough of it. But again, the market was crazy and the houses were scarce. But we found one, and we went all in on it. Ariel bent over backwards for us. And, we were lucky enough to secure a home down here.
Tell me about the pricing, because you guys come from an area, pricing is really high in taxes. Could you elaborate on your thoughts on that, please?
The property taxes compression was amazing when I, again, was doing the arithmetic on these homes versus where we came from. And I was, I would tell my buddies from New York and New Jersey what the taxes were down here, and they're scratching their heads and looking at the homes. They're like, this house has these taxes? And these are guys from Long Island or, Bergen County. So it just didn't translate. And then when you combine that with, again, the culture and the infrastructure and access and, the amazing weather and the amazing people, to Brian's point, it was just like, wow. It's just like you're seeing stars.
How many properties did Ariel show you?
I would fly or drive down when I could, and I would just, my cup overfloweth. I mean, I was drinking from a fire hose, but we probably saw about 20, 25 properties in a real short amount of time. So it was a lot.
Did Ariel, did you close electronically, like virtually, or did you here at the closing?
Yep. Yeah, which was great. I mean, it made it super easy. She found attorneys for us because we don't have any professionals down here, and we wanted local people to help us. So she orchestrated all of this. She was incredible. She was great. She was like an artist doing her thing. It was really great. And I trusted her implicitly. She did a great job.
Well, she's definitely a local for sure.
Brian
H., you had a lady from Coldwell Banker?
Yeah. So Betty Owen, I used in Coldwell Banker.
Betty's been around for a long time too, actually.
Yeah. I mean, and that was reassuring to me that I knew that she kind of had a really good feel of what the community was and what it's becoming. She was referred to me by my local Coldwell banking office that was in my area in New Jersey. So she was, I guess, one of the relocation specialists, and I definitely felt that. She was extremely sympathetic for me. I still had my Northeast 150 mile an hour hat on when I was working with Betty. She reminded me of that a few times, but it ended up working out. My home buying process was very similar to Brian D's. My family had located a neighborhood that we just had to be a part of. And so we were emailing and texting and Facebook requesting anybody that we found in this community to help us find our home. And that's how it ended up working out. Just before.
That's smart, Brian. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we knew what we wanted. We knew that the market was aggressive down here. And so we knew we had to do it. And I tell you, it was a lot of work, a little bit of stress, but the price at the end was well worth it.
Brian, you mentioned you had your 100 mile an hour hat on. So has the way you do business, have you slowed that pace down a little bit?
In our business lives, we still operate, I'll say 100 miles an hour behind the scenes. But while we're client facing and things like that, I think it's for everybody. And I don't think that this was a product of being down here, but we're able to take our time a bunch more with clients because of the Zoom, right? We don't have to worry about them hitting traffic and leaving our offices early in order to get home safe to their family and their friends. What's really changed is the speed as soon as we're done work. Bill, I told you this several times. I can honestly say I would guarantee I added years onto my life from this transition down here and this lifestyle. You hear about it, but you can't quite really embrace it until,
That's
like
cool.
Brian said, you've experienced it.
That's cool. So I have one last question to both of you. You move down here, everybody has anticipations. You always kind of think this is what it's going to be like. What's something that surprised you that was different than maybe what you thought?
We joined a social business club downtown, and I never thought I would do that. Do that sort of thing. I feel like, but it had a completely different feel than what my perception of it would have been. And maybe that was just a Northeast sort of thing.
That's
where where I hailed from.
It's
but
not
the amount
stuffy down there. The Harbor Club in the West Edge, but it's not stuffy at all, is it?
No, I'd say it's casual but elevated, and it's extremely authentic. And it was exactly, I'll say, on brand for like me as a person and my family and our business. I mean, yeah. So I was surprised. I guess I was very pleasantly surprised about that. But like I said, it's such an elevated experience.
Now that you mention it, does fit your personality. Brian H., what is it that surprised you in your journey here?
Yeah, when I finally landed here and I realized the melting pot that this area has really become of people and expats from around the country, it's great to meet people that have been here forever and the stories that they can share about how they changed, how an industry has come to town and how Mount Pleasant and the other areas have been developed for the most part very positively. But what was surprising to me was just how many of my neighbors and the folks that I meet are from all over. And I think because of that, everybody's starting on the same page where they actually want to meet people. I might have a neighbor from Alabama. I have a neighbor from Philadelphia. Everybody chats because nobody has, or I don't say nobody, but these folks don't have those deep routes. So they're still looking to make those relationships. That was fantastic for me and my family because we were welcomed right away, and everybody shares the stories and similar experiences of coming down here and why they came down here. It's really neat. That was
really, to be honest with you, everything you're talking about right now is why I wanted to do, who are they and where did they come from? That's a very great capsule. And the other thing that you just highlighted, which makes a lot of sense, is that everybody's in the same boat. So everybody is embracing new relationships. But I also think that the South has been the way the South has been for centuries. And I think the roots here, I want to believe they will not change drastically. And therefore, they opening the door for people. Were you guys surprised when you would see that? Or drinking sweet tea? Or that's not going to go away. And I know those are actions that are just there, but they're indicative of the culture. We're happy to have you guys. I'm happy to call you guys more than acquaintances. We started a friendship when you guys first moved here, and I appreciate you guys. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of helping people manage their money to do the podcast.
Thank you, Bill. This was great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill. Right from the beginning of our relationship, you brought the spirit of the town to us, so we appreciate it.
Oh, that's a cool thing to say.
Yeah.
All right. Now I have one other important question. This is an important question. Brian D., do you read Mount Pleasant magazine?
Yes, sir.
And Brian H.,
I have a stack on my island.
All right, guys. Yeah. Thanks again. Okay, you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Who Are They and Where Do They Move From podcast, a special edition of Voice for Real Estate. South Carolina's shoreline is attracting thousands of newcomers on a weekly basis. You'll meet these new South Carolina residents on the Who Are They and Where Did They Move From podcast.